Test, test, test.
Sounding good. Test, test on this end.
Waiting for the delay.
Gotta love the delay.
I think we might have this, ladies and gentlemen.
That would be awesome.
We're gonna kick this mule. Here we go. Shut up.
Proudly presents the Waterman and D-Train Show.
Hey, we're back for part 2.
Digitized live from the Act
Round two,
Computer
as it were.
Studios in Cape Coral,
Take
Florida.
two.
It's the Waterman and D-Train Show.
Hopefully we got it this time. Audio bugs are fun.
Yes. God, they are so fun.
So what's up, OG5? Hopefully those of you who are in the chat channel right now can tell us if the audio is coming through the way that it needs to come through and how everything sounds. But anyhow,
Or are we just wasting our time?
we could
You know?
possibly be wasting our time. But hey, we have plenty of time because most of the world and the country are locked indoors. They're being told to stay home. We here in Lee County got the stay home order on Friday. Now, technically, it's weird. I don't know if they technically passed an order. They basically just sent out text messages using the emergency broadcast system that they usually use for Amber Alerts and Silver Alerts here in Florida. And we've been getting a
That's
lot of
interesting.
those.
So we got the actual order for all non-essential businesses and going to the grocery stores, but it was via a press conference. There was nothing blasted across their cell phones. So it's interesting to see how our two states are handling things a little bit differently.
Sorry about that. I was testing rudimentary. It's so generic how we got to do shit around here. So I have my cell phone logged in, and I have a pair of headphones hooked into my cell phone so that I could hear the audio to see if it's coming through clear. And it does sound like it's coming through clear now. And hopefully we'll get back some of the viewers because we scared some people off because we're trying to do new things because changes are in the wind, sadly.
Yes, they are.
And, those things will happen at the beginning of next month. But it's just weird we're trying to get rid of the whole need a camera on the TV thing for Gordon. We're trying to make it more professional looking and overall, more enjoyable for you, the listening audience. But anyhow, we're here. And it's so hard to relaunch a show and go back through things you've already went through.
Exactly. It is. And I don't know what they've heard about, but as we were discussing earlier, there may have been a chance that you may possibly have some contamination floating around.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I really want to get into it but let me just say this because the other stream was gone. No one could hear the audio anyhow. Long story short, there is a gentleman in Southwest Florida who was pretty well known, who is the youngest COVID-19 victim, at least so far in Southwest Florida, and he just passed away. What Gordon's saying when he's saying there's a possibility that, I could have been exposed by proxy accidentally is that, well, a family member of mine and his wife were having lunch and or dinner. I can't remember exactly what. Basically, they were supposed to go on a cruise, and the cruise got canceled, much like everything else going on. And they were angry and annoyed because at the time, we all kind of said, hey, this is not all that serious. It's not a big deal. Why are we taking this thing so crazily? But
how often does the media cry wolf, as talked about last week? And that was in a lot of our mindsets. Correct.
Sure. I mean, and it's so hard to take everything so serious when it comes to the media. But anyhow, so they went out and they had dinner together, and the day after is when this gentleman started having his symptoms. And then he went to the hospital for treatment. And I don't know the whole backstory. I'm not even going to get into it. All I can tell you is that he did not have any underlying issues. We know that the one guy who went to Disneyland turned out to be a testicular cancer survivor a few months before, so his immune system was compromised. But this particular gentleman, as far as the newspaper, as far as the reporting goes, he was, for all intents and purposes, a healthy cat.
Yeah.
And so it's really scary that, because up until this point, we keep going, it only affects the elderly, and, the young punks are coming down. Young punks, I feel like I sound like an old guy now. There's the reports of the young cats coming down for spring break thinking, there's not going to happen to us. But anyhow,
you know that clown ass that was on TV talking about it on the beach? He was from Cincinnati.
That does not surprise me at all. Oh.
He issued a huge apology from Cincinnati. I was like, that makes sense. I hate to say it. I love you guys out there, but your hometown. But
it doesn't surprise me. But anyhow, it's so the family member, two family members of mine, a husband and wife couple, they went out and had dinner with this gentleman and his wife because they were friends. They know each other from the downtown scene. He gets sick. That his symptoms started coming through the day afterwards, and we knew he was in the hospital and on ventilators, but we really didn't do the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type thing on this,
right?
Which is how this stuff spreads, and that's why they want people to stay home, so that if you're asymptomatic, meaning you have no symptoms, you don't know.
So, Deidre, you're saying it's Kevin Bacon's fault?
No, what I'm saying is that after this group of family members had lunch with this gentleman and his wife, a couple of days later, they asked Carrie if she can come over and babysit their dog while they went up to work, because they're fostering a new pit bull, and they were concerned about leaving the dogs alone, what may happen. So Carrie went over there and babysat, and she was over there for like 3 or 4 hours, and now we're kind of a little scared. I mean, the family members are now monitoring themselves because obviously they're scared too. When you have lunch with a person that passed away the day before his symptoms came to light, there is a possibility that they may have it. And so obviously they're monitoring themselves closely. But, it is a little scary to think, well, Carrie was sitting over there on their couch, petting their dog, hanging out for 3 or 4 hours by herself. They weren't there, but I'm sure there was hugs exchanged when she first got there and she was monitoring their house. And so you just don't know, and it's kind of scary. It really is.
It is. Now, are you guys going to kind of quarantine yourselves for the next 14 days just to be safe? Because, as we know, our father lives there. He's got some stuff going on. And I'm sure, Carrie's mom she's getting up there too. And just the kind of, unfortunately, the people who live in Florida are of an elderly generation. Are you guys going to do a little extra care that you would not have done if you didn't know this?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely will. Carrie's kind of, with the exception of going over there, she's been basically staying home for the last 2 weeks, because prior to this week that just ended, the week before was their spring break, and she's a teacher.
Gotcha.
And so she, her greatest wish in life is to be financially stable enough where she didn't have to leave the house. She would love to just hang out and, do things around here all the time. And so, she has no desire to leave. And then you add the COVID-19 on top of that. So she was home the week before because of the spring break, hanging out around the house, just lounging, enjoying her spring break. And then they had to start, and then this week that just finished, they had to start prepping for the distance learning. She's doing a distance learning here in the podcast studio. We're definitely equipped for that. And starting Monday, the kids are officially back doing distance learning. So she's definitely not going anywhere. I've been trying to do most of my work remotely. I did bring a computer here to my house, but I left it in the garage. I didn't want to bring it into the living area of my house, so I repaired it at my garage. The gentleman came over, and we maintained like a 10-foot radius, and he just dropped the check and took his laptop, and I went and washed my hands. But yeah, we're definitely
6 feet, motherfucker.
We're definitely going to try to maintain a distance and all that stuff. John Kraft, OG5, checking in. Thank you guys for your support, and I hope things are going well for all you guys. And if you're watching via YouTube or Periscope, big props to the Periscope fans. You guys are always there for us. You're always watching. Give us a call. We want to hear from you. 239-232-4419. Once again, Dave's not here because he's at home sheltering in place, plus all the health issues going on in his family that we just, it doesn't make sense, and he don't have the equipment at that location to Skype in. And we tried one time with him calling in via the phone, and when you went back and as we were doing it, it sounded great, but when you went and listened back, the phone volume was so low, even though I had it cranked on this side. It's just just way too much stuff to get into, especially with what's going on now. I mean, hell, you and I, we barely got the audio going for this at the top of this video. We actually had to cut it.
Duct
and
tape
go
and
twice.
baling wire, man. I tell you, it fixes it all.
So what have you been doing in your quarantine time?
I'm working. I work at the office every day of the week. Fortunately, where I work, we are, as probably discussed last week, we've got our own separate offices. So we're able to kind of hunker down and self-isolate, with the exception you may run into somebody if you got to go use the restroom and that. But it's trucking on. Construction is still considered essential. And I believe I saw something in the package that one of our vendors, I did say package, shared that there is in the stimulus package that businesses who do renovations will have a tax credit. So that'll help out the construction industry some more. I'm hoping, that it continues to grow. What's interesting is there's a lot of people who are not happy that the construction is going on. I watch, and hopefully this is the last of what I'm going to call the Great Fiasco talk tonight. You'll see people on social media say it almost sound like they're complaining that they're considered essential. And I'm like, tell that to somebody who's been laid off.
Well, I mean, let's
gladly.
And that's one of the things I had to remind myself back in 2008, 2009, when the economy collapsed the first time, that, when I was working all these hours, that, hey, there are plenty of people out there with no jobs to be had. And so I need to be thankful to have the work that I had and go out and do it. And now we're in that same position where, yes, there are people who are getting laid off, but that doesn't negate the fact that there is a whole community of people out there that don't want to work and who would love to be able to stay home and get paid for it. And so I'm sure that some of those cats who are out doing this hard manual labor would really enjoy, whether it's paid or unpaid, just a few days to go home and kind of chill with the family. It's got to be hard when, and because you're doing it, but granted you're in an office and you're doing, bids and paperwork and all that. But, when you're out in the hot sun doing this hard work and everybody you know is at home sitting on the couch whether they want to or not, there's got to be a part of you where that just makes that workday suck even more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is obviously trying to have a positive outlook. And that's something we try to do in the Digital 410 network as a whole, not just this show, not just the other ones such as Failed to Fail, but we try to look at things in a positive light.
There's people in Grove City and Columbus watching this saying, how the fuck can these two say that? These two are the biggest, most Debbie Downer dick fucks I've ever met in my life. But again, they haven't seen us.
Dude.
Well, they haven't seen us in 15 and 20 years, but we've been honest about this. When we were young cats and we're dealing with hormones and all the, dealing with our demons from the past and, life problems. Yes, I was a Debbie Downer. I was a dickhead. But
get out of Ohio.
No, that's not even fair. It's life experience.
It is. It absolutely
I mean, and
is.
you can go back on you can go on Facebook right now and look at someone who you graduated high school with, who you haven't talked to in 25 years, who you thought this guy was a complete cock when we were in school. If I saw him nowadays, I'd flick him a fat fuck you. But then you start going through your timeline and watching videos and stuff, and you realize, well, that person's not the same person he was 20 years ago either. And that actually may be somebody that I could tolerate in person now. And so people change, and a lot of that change comes through life experience. And if
it doesn't, you're not living life.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you're one of these cats that say I'm the same motherfucker that I ever was, to quote House of Pain,
I'm sorry.
If you're still trying to hold on to that, then you really need to look in the mirror, because if you're at 40 years old saying that you're the same person you were at 18, 19, you really need to figure out why you haven't progressed as a human being and became, changed.
Yes, and to learn things. And unfortunately, there are, as we know, a lot of people who have dug themselves into that rut of, it's almost comfortable, right? They don't want to get outside of their comfort zone. They're paranoid of it, and that's kind of where they're at. It's the old saying, and I know it's cliche, but misery loves company, and there's goddamn a ton of them out there.
Well, not only does misery love company, but as we like to say here, if you hang out with turds, you're going to get shit on. And we kind of segued into a conversation I had on my list of shit. Hey, what's up, Bill Howard? Checking in, OG5. One of the things I had on, not to get too deep down the rabbit hole in here, but one of the questions I had is, how many of y'all are reevaluating your life? Not so much your particular activities and how you function, but maybe those around you, whether it's a coworker, family member, a friend, some of these people that just can't seem to get out of their own way, and you're just like, I don't know. When this is all said and done and I'm back out in the world, do I want to continue maintaining that stress in my life and trying to help them, or do I want to focus on my family and doing the, trying to improve my life?
Ultimately, I think you almost have to focus on yourself, because sadly, when you try to help somebody along and you give them, a different perspective, and a lot of it has to do with perspective, you're the dickhead. You're now the asshole. You don't understand it, man. This is what I'm going through. Well, believe me, I've been there. So I'm just trying to tell you what worked for me. It may or may not work for you, but it's worth the try.
Yeah.
It's worth the effort. So, and mindset, it's either what, glass half full, half empty. Unfortunately, a lot of these motherfuckers have said, fuck it, that glass is now on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. So, but I'm very thankful for what's going on. We're doing all right now. We have, as I talked last week, and kind of batting down the hatches a little, looking at some things, kind of having a rough outline in case shit really goes sideways in our lives, to mitigate some impact. But, otherwise we're going to keep on trucking. Now, one thing I will admit, I have had a higher level of generalized anxiety over the last 2 weeks. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just because our weekly and monthly nut's quite large, probably a little larger than it should be. So
yeah, because you're a property owner and you have tenants, and so if not only can the economy potentially affect your income and your job and your wife's job, but there's a higher likelihood that it's going to affect the income and livelihood of the person who rents one of your properties, which is going to be even a bigger kick in your nuts if that, because you're going to be affected by proxy if they lose their income.
Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. And then how long will it take the economy to come back? Because as we know, Las Vegas, well, it is the vacation destination, right? Yeah, we have diversified throughout the valley. We've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm still seeing jobs coming in. Again, I think the stimulus will help this.
And for those
to get this strip ramped back up, to get these hotels filled again, I think that's going to take some time.
And for those you playing at home, so, oh, Gordon, no, boo-hoo, you're not going to have, you're not a landlord because you're trying to make money off of a property. You're a landlord because the way the market is or was, is you would take a substantial, huge loss. Basically no one's willing to buy the property at what the market value is. You'd be more than happy. You'd be happier than a puppy with two Peters to offload this property and be done with it. But in order not to destroy your credit or take a huge loss where you're basically paying out of pocket to cover the rest of the loan that wouldn't get covered by the original, whoever bought the property, you're kind of stuck trying to,
do the right thing.
You're stuck being a landlord because you're hoping you can carry this property. Someone can pay the mortgage on it because they're living in it until you can finally move it for what the property's worth. You're not trying to make a profit. You're just trying to keep from losing your ass on it.
If I could get what I owe on it at this point, which means I'd still lose $30,000, I'll do it at this point. But that's neither here nor there. We've all got our own challenges, and again, we try to stay positive about it. One of the things I've been trying to do is this machine back here. I've been trying to use it every day. Have I been successful? No. Will I be successful? Yes.
Martin Mazika, you're checking in via Facebook. Give us a call, Martin. I really want to talk to you. Give us a call, 239-232-4419. Martin, I need to talk to you. Give us a call, please. You are in New York City. We want to hear from you.
Will you be allowed to even go anywhere?
We want to hear what in the holy hell is going on in New York City, because you guys are essentially ground zero. Florida is pulling up in ranks. We're like third place now, I think, maybe fourth. And so in the scary race that none of us want to win, we're kind of like behind we're pulling up quickly.
Yeah. And we'll see but I kind of want to move along from this fiasco.
Real quick, while we're on the topic of the fiasco, I was lucky enough to get ass wipe. I found toilet paper.
I got some today too. Where'd you find it?
It's an interesting story, and I'm just kind of seeing if Martin's going to call us. But so I've lived in the same neighborhood, despite the fact that I've lived on two properties, but it's within the same distance. And there is a small, oh, fuck it, I'll say it. There's a Dollar General by me, right? And I've been going to this Dollar General for like 5 years, and I know basically the staff, and I've been in a bad mood a few times when I've gone in there, but for most times I'm pretty cordial with the people, and they like me and I like them. And it never fails, and I'm sure we're all there on holidays. Thanksgiving, Christmas, you're cooking dinner, and someone realizes, oh crap, we're out of chicken broth, or oh crap, we need this, that, and so you rush down to Dollar General because they're the only ones open, and they're there. The stuff you need is usually there, and every time I go in there, I thank them, and I really try to tell them, hey, I understand that this is hard for you because you have to adjust your holiday schedule, but let it be known that it's not gone unnoticed and that we're not thankful that you guys are here because you're able to help us get the supplies we need to finish our meals. And so every year I'm really nice to them and all that. So I was there the other day and I did a quick lap around. No toilet paper. Mm-hmm. Now we still had like, I don't know, half a pack at home, and not a big pack. It was like, when this whole thing started, I was actually found a pack here at the 7-Eleven, a pack there, just a normal, 6-pack, not the big bundle, the 24-pack, but just the 6 normal rolls. What normal rolls used to be before they blew them up, where you had to have the extension for your toilet paper roll and all that stuff. And so I had picked up 2 of those about a week ago, and we're down to about 3 rolls. And I do a lap around Dollar General, and there's nothing there. So I just grab a pack of premium napkins.
Hey, man, any port in a storm. So real quick,
Hold on,
how many rolls of toilet okay,
go ahead. How many rolls?
How many rolls of toilet paper does the average, and we're probably above average, but the average U.S. citizen use a year?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say 14. No, 3.
About 100 rolls of toilet paper a year.
A year.
A year. Now, do you know this is not the first time toilet paper has been hoarded in the United States?
No, I do know that because of this, I've gone from being a handful guy. Mm-hmm. I used to be the handful guy. Now I'm actually rationing squares. Now I'm like a 2-square guy. I went from being a handful guy to being a 2-square guy. And so I'm rationing. But let me get back to my story real quick, and then you can get on your statistic about when the last time we were on a toilet paper shortage. So hold that spot. So I go up there and I plop down the pack of premium napkins.
Said plop.
Martin Marzika is asking for the number real quick. Martin, that phone number is 239-232-4419. So I plopped down the premium napkins, and she looked at me. She's like, "Are you wanting napkins or you need toilet paper?" I was like, "Well, you don't have any toilet paper." She's like, "There's a guy back here stocking the shelf. His name's Bob. Go talk to Bob. Tell him I said to sell you some toilet paper."
I've got a guy.
So I went back there and I said, "Hey, Bob." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Word on the street, you're the man to talk to." He's like, "About what?" I'm like, "About things you can't get right now."
What about Import-Export Steve? Wouldn't he be all over this?
Import-Export Steve has got a scheme going on, and we'll get into that later. And so Bob's like, "Yeah, I got this toilet paper here. It's our brand," which was like cardboard. It was like, and he's like, "I got this back here," and it was it wasn't a premium brand, but it was a medium brand. And so I took 1 pack, I think 6 rolls, maybe 8. I went up there and plopped them down on the counter, and the manager's like, plop, plop, fizz, fizz. She's like, "You only want 1 pack?" I was like, "Well, I don't want to be greedy." I said, "I don't know how many packs you have back here." And she's like, she rang me up for 2. She's like, "Go back there and tell Bob I rang you up for 2. So I went back there and I talked to Bob again. And
so is she like a bartender who's trying to make the decision if this person in front of me is either drunk on toilet paper or not?
No,
or
she's
the
the daughter of the store manager, and now I think she's a shift manager, and she's been there for 5 or 6 years, and she's one of the people I've thanked many a times on Christmas and Thanksgiving for being there, and I have a cordial relationship with them. I don't just go in there and ignore them and leave. I often tell people that, and here's a little hint for you guys.
No TP for you.
Well, it's kind of reminiscent of back when we all used to have local neighborhood stores, right? But now we don't. Right. We all order off Amazon, this, that, and the other thing. But try to make a habit. If somebody has a job where they got to wear a name tag, a lot of times that particular person is probably ignored more than actually talked to, except for by the daily people. Like if you're going to Publix or Albertsons or wherever.
And they're usually referred to a hey or you,
Yeah,
right?
once Gina's done ringing up your bill and you pay, say, hey, thanks, Gina, have a nice day. And they're like, huh, what? And then they think, how do they know? Oh, my name tag. But it lightens their
Do it all the
day,
time.
and it just makes it all in all more better. Hopefully this is Martin. Let's
Hopefully
try
this works.
Waterman and D Train show. Is this Martin? Hello.
Hey, Martin, how are you doing?
You there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Hey man, yeah, I can hear you. How you been?
I can't complain.
Oh,
Stuck in the house for going on like 3 weeks plus.
2 weeks.
3 weeks at least, I'd say.
What is things like in New York City right now? Well, I guess first and foremost, where are you exactly in New York? Are you in the Bronx?
So, no, I'm in Brooklyn. It's Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. It's best known for like John Travolta.
Hey fella, I listened to Lords of Brooklyn back in 1993. I know all about Bensonhurst and Avenue J. For those you guys don't know, Lords of Brooklyn was like a poor man's House of Pain.
Like where you start getting into like the still more like Jewish whatnot.
Sure.
But yeah, it bounces onto us at the end, kind of like towards Marine Park. But yeah, it used to be old school Italian, but the old school Italians, they sold out for cash to all the Chinese, and the Chinese, they like anything with 7 and 8s. And I live on 18th Avenue in the 70th, so anywhere you have a 7 or an 8, you'll notice it's a huge Chinese population, thus being like the largest Chinese population outside of China over here in Brooklyn.
How long have you been in New York? Because for those playing along at home, you are from Grove City, Ohio, which is the same town where Gordon and I grew up in. And I got to tell you, I don't know how long you've been in New York, but you've picked up the accent. It's there a little bit.
I'd say I got here in 2002, summer of 2002.
Yes, you're
Don't go full garbage disposal.
You're kind of like me now. It's you're almost at the point now where you've lived out of Ohio longer than you lived in Ohio.
Almost, yeah.
And you're a school teacher. Are you guys starting your distance learning, or how is the New York school system handling that?
When my daughter was born almost 4 years ago, I put in for a child care leave. I get no benefits, I get no pay, but I'm locked in at 15 years of service. And then when I want to go back, as long as I don't have a child enrolled in kindergarten, so when my son came along, I got another 5 years. So in total, I'll get 7 years, unless like I adopt a kid or whatever. But I've been on leave for 4 years. Well, this will be going on 4 years. So I'm glad I haven't been in the system. I've been at home playing at-home dad, you know.
That's
how's getting around New York right now?
They can't. They're locked down.
I mean, can you go to the store? Or you're permitted to at least get out and get some provisions?
I've gone out here and there, like driving and whatnot. But the subways are still up and running and whatnot. But most people are. It's hit or miss. It's like you got people who are taking it serious, and you got people who just, aren't taking it serious. And then, I mean, for instance, we got some degenerate teens down the block that.
Are these the ones that shoot the rap videos in front of your house?
No, I don't even know where those people come from. But
you must have some great architecture on your street that everybody wants to come shoot rap videos in front of your house.
Yeah, you got these teens who, like, I don't know where their parents are at, or if they don't care, or if they can't control them themselves, but they're just out and about, hanging out, hugging on each other. So you got all the teens. I think that was part of the equation of like why they didn't want to cancel school, because they knew they can't control them in the schools. It's a shit show as it is in the schools already. So you open up a whole new system of policing, because they've done everything they can. If you look at the history of de Blasio, he's done everything he could to get police out of schools. There's no security, there's no NYPD in police. It's nothing more than crossing guards now that check IDs.
Really?
So there's no discipline. Yeah, there's no discipline whatsoever. Now all of a sudden, you've got all this stuff you've been able to control with fake data in the schools, and you close the schools. Well, all those kids now are going to go out and get criminal records, because the police don't care when it hits the fan and they got a cop's got to get on a call, they're going to see that. That's why in the summertime crime rate goes up, because the kids are out.
Sure.
Well, I was reading somewhere that the cops in New York, there's over 517 cases just amongst the police. And that's scary enough,
Well, my buddy, he's a firefighter, and 30 of their firefighters got corona because they were using the cops to do crowd control, and I'm sorry, the firefighters to do crowd control and whatnot, and they had the Hasidic Jews were having parties and doing all kinds of weddings, and the fire department would show up to disperse the crowds, and then they got exposed. Now you got whole firehouses completely shut down, and they're trying to man fire departments with guys shuffling around here and there because there's actual 2 or 3 firehouses completely quarantined.
And New York City is a place where you really can't protect yourself well either, isn't it?
Right. Well, we're lucky because we're more residential, and I started taking stuff more seriously. So my in-laws are 100% Italian, and nonstop is like Italian TV on the background, like just constantly.
Believe me, I've got Greek in-laws, and it's the same thing.
How many 30-year-old males do you have in your family still living at home with mom?
What's that?
I said, how many 30-year-old males do you still have in your family living at home with mom?
I'm not too many with me, but the in-laws have the TV on down in their apartment when they stay with us. We own the building, and then we saved a unit for them to stay with us when they come visit, and so they stay 2 weeks at a time here and there.
You're kind of like Fiona and shit.
What's that?
You're like Fiona on Shameless and shit. You got your own building.
Yeah, and so they had the Italian news on like a month before this hit New York, and when it was hitting Italy, it was like no joke. So I was already getting a sense of what was going on. And then on top of that, because I live over here in Chinatown, I live literally in the Hasidic Jewish China area, like right on the border. So you started seeing the Chinese and how they were acting. All of a sudden, I'd say a good percentage wears masks in general.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of hard to tell a change with them because they always wear the mask as a daily routine. And for those you don't know, the thing about the Chinese, man, especially here, they don't wear those masks to protect themselves from you. Before this happened, I'm saying pre-coronavirus, when you would see the Chinese and the Asians walking around with the mask, they were doing that for you because they were sick. So they weren't wearing masks to prevent from getting sick off of you. Whenever they get sick, they would wear the mask to keep from spreading their common flu and cold to other people because they're that conscious about the people around them. Because over in China, obviously, the population's so damn huge, it's just the thing to do.
Right.
Didn't that actually kind of start with SARS?
Probably.
What's that?
Which COVID-19 is actually a SARS disease, but I believe in the early 2000s when they had the huge SARS outbreak, that's when I really started seeing it. Now, out here in Vegas, we do have a large Chinese population, and that was one of the first things I noticed moving here in 2007 was, a lot of the Chinese, a lot of the Asians wore the face mask or full umbrellas, and it's sunny as can be. But, it's a different culture, right? They want their skin to be pristine and porcelain, like the old China doll look, and that. But yeah, I did notice the face mask. I was out today myself at Sam's, got in line. We did maintain our distance, thank God. Got in there, found our TP, found a couple provisions we need. Now we're good for a couple of weeks, hopefully. Got to talk her into that, and we could be out. But yeah, a lot of people are rocking the mask. Even here.
When they were, I noticed like let's say 25% normally, where all of a sudden it was like 100% of them. So you knew something was going down because they were getting their media from China, and I was getting also the media from Italy. So before the common American finally woke up and figured out what the hell was going on, I had already stockpiled and was doing things. I was trying to get my wife to stop going to work. Luckily, she works for a very liberal. She works for Viacom CBS. They, being a global.
So your wife works for the media?
Yeah, she's the director of finance for Viacom and CBS. Yeah.
Not to get her in trouble by any means, but it's probably the only way I can say this without sounding rude and being a dick. I worked in radio for 6.5 years, and not so much my station, but when I started working in radio, and especially when things started happening, because yes, radio is in fact part of the media. But what I discovered is when you say something on the radio, even if it's a joke, half the population takes it serious, and there are part of the population who takes every word you say as being gospel. And so after seeing it firsthand, I realized, Because if you're not working, I guess what I'm getting to is if you never worked in the media or don't know people who's worked in the media, when you hear these people you consider nuts saying don't trust the media, they're making this stuff up, they have agendas, blah 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 blah. You're like, well, how can that possibly be? Look,
It's true.
once I started working in the media, I stopped taking the media so seriously because I realized how easy it is to get an agenda across. Because not that we did it, but we would often make up jokes or inside little comments that were just kind of a joke, and after people would take it as something that really happened, and we would just continue that joke on for years and years. But it's so easy, and that whether it's newspaper, radio, especially TV or the internet, just to make shit up out of whole cloth and get people to buy into it.
Oh yeah. Well, with her being more in the financial area, she was getting more of the shutdown, real planning, what was going to go on here and there. So I actually, she was lucky enough that she could work from home early. So we already shut ourselves down. We pulled our daughter out of her daycare a week before they started making decisions. We were ones looking nuts before anybody else thought it was nuts. And so, I mean, we've pretty much already pre-locked ourselves down, and we're actually trying to make our way up to the farm upstate where her in-laws are at. It's just a matter of we had various things we had to tie up on our end, and it was actually looking towards like next Friday. This is our goal, but now all of a sudden we're seeing things that the president and the governor might just lock us in here completely.
Yeah, I got to say, your governor, regardless of what his politics are, I've been watching him, and he's a straight fucking shooter, man. He tells it how it is. I love the fact when he told New York City, you got to get fucking people out of Central Park. There's other parks that are 400 acres, a little further out. You got to get out, spread out. Close the roads down, let people walk in the road so they can have distancing. Not only did he have issues, he had solutions for said issues, and he's a straight shooter. And I've been watching him a lot when he does his daily speeches.
He's picked up his game, but he also drops the ball. He's one of those guys where it's like he'll play an A game after the game's over. So that's what you're seeing from him right now. He's playing a hell of a game, but the problem is the game was over a month ago.
Yeah.
When
he's in constant mode of catch up then.
Well, when they started seeing things coming out of China, we got so many Chinese people. The Chinese New Year took off, and they didn't want to do anything. There was, you're a bigot, you're a, whatever if you even mention. Let's shutting down Chinese New Year. Let's make sure people aren't coming in and going out. No, it was a free-for-all. People come and go. I mean, you see your neighbors. Like, for instance, my neighbor tells me, hey, can you park my car for me for 3 weeks because we're going to China for New Year. You see people come and go. When you see around Chinese New Year, I mean, New York City gets the school days off because the kids don't show up for a few days. We don't have school on Chinese New Year because it's so big.
Wow.
So it's a big holiday here, and they were just letting people come and go. And then all of a sudden, the first reports were at universities. And lo and behold, they wouldn't say it, but you knew it was a Chinese student coming back from celebrating or coming back from, having a good time. And all of a sudden, you notice everywhere that was a large Chinese population is where they were first starting to see the balloons. And it was right after the Chinese New Year where they just let everything go. And it was like, what happened there? And then right after that, we started seeing signs of the Hasidic Jewish community starting to have outbreaks. And they let Purim go on. But he wouldn't do it because the way they vote is if one rabbi says you're going to vote for Cuomo, then the whole, we're talking millions of people vote for Cuomo just because one rabbi says so. They vote as a block. They don't have a thought for themselves in terms of politically. In terms of the Hasidic Jewish community. And so he did not stop Purim. They let busloads come in and out of New York. Because, I mean, it's like the one day where imagine, like, what's the celebration where the Amish get to go crazy as kids.
Oh yeah, when they turn 16,
Rumspringa.
Yes.
When Amish kids turn 16, they get to go out for a few weeks or a month or whatever and decide if they want to live amongst the quote-unquote English or if they want to maintain their livelihood. Most of those cats, they kind of break into that shit beforehand. I've seen what used to be a TV show, but I've heard stories where I knew people who grew up in those areas, Ohio and Pennsylvania, where the Amish kids at school, they would tell their parents they're staying and studying, and they would go out to local stores and they would buy our clothing and leave them at their friend's house. And so even long before they do the Rumspringa stuff, they would just go to their friend's house, change into the English clothes, go out party and do all the debauchery, and then go home and go back to their friend's house, change, and then ride the buggy back home and pretend like nothing was going on.
Teenagers
Right,
are
and
teenagers, doesn't
that's
matter
kinda what
Amish or
Forum is
not.
for the Hasidic Jews.
Yep.
They
Well, Martin,
they get in costume for a night and they go crazy and they do everything they can do, and they let that go on. And then they even said, we're going to finally quarantine the day after Purim's done. And then as soon as that happened, it was out and about. I mean, it just
Too late.
we had two incidences where they could have stopped it or they could have done something, and people did ask them to, but they didn't want to do it for political reasons. And then once the cat was out of the bag, now they're playing the game of, now let's look like we're going to do something. It's like, you should have done something when you knew you had it, but politically you didn't,
Yeah. Well, Martin, stay safe, stay healthy. Hopefully you can get the hell out of Dodge and go up to the farm and get the fuck away from people. But thanks for calling in, and just keep in touch with us. Let us know how things are going.
All right, guys, you enjoy. And I just saw that Florida's screening all New Yorkers coming down your way. They're all states are now. You see Rhode Island, they got state troopers out that if you got a New York plate, they're turning you away. It's so I just see the signs are on the wall next that they're going to just shut us down, and they can, because the only way you can get into New York City and Long Island is from bridge and tunnel. The only way out is if you had a private boat.
Yeah.
And you made a run for it in your boat.
That's
Make me think of the show The Strain. If anybody's ever seen that, but
12 to 20, maybe 12 million in New York City, a couple more million. You're talking the ability to just shut off a few tunnels, a few bridges, and you've got yourself quarantined, X amount of millions of people in no time.
Well, there's a reason why they had a prison state movie called Escape from New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
stay safe,
we'll
man,
see
and we'll be thinking of you.
But I enjoy the show, guys. It's I try to pop on and watch you guys from time to time, and here and there.
If you can't watch it, you can always download it on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Music Play, anything where fine podcasts are available. You can listen to it in your car. You can listen to it while you're working out. You can listen to it while you're stuck in your house. So absolutely, if you guys can't sit here and watch the whole video, we completely understand. The video is kind of a sample of what the show's about, so that when you want to hear what else happened on the show, you can just download it. And obviously you can go to D-410 as well as all the previous places. But thanks, Martin. Stay safe.
All right, guys. Take care.
Yeah, all right.
There's people out there who say there's a lot more going on than they're telling us. And I had a conversation the other night, and I'm tending to believe that, and then we'll change conversations here.
Okay.
I was trying to get a nurse on the show to give some
Yes.
frontline description of what's going on, and she was reluctant because they are being told by their hospitals not to talk to any media whatsoever about what's going on. So that's a little.
So
concerning.
they got a gag order, basically.
I don't know if they're trying to protect us from truth or information about.
Or it could be from misinformation because people's opinions vary. Cases vary so wildly from location to location, too.
Well, not only that, but
So-
they may not be worried so much about inaccurate information getting out about COVID-19. They may be more concerned about truth getting out about how unprepared a lot of these hospitals are and the lack of supplies and the things they're going through. They may want
But
to.
I
try
thought
to
that
keep
was no
above
secret.
on
I
that.
mean, it's all over the news that they've run out of, especially New York, running out of beds, ran out of beds.
Yeah,
I
but
know out here.
but when you have a media, the hospitals, they have a secretary of media, if you will, and,
Oh, yeah.
and they can control the information gets out. Whereas if you have the employees who may be a little disgruntled, worn out, tired, upset, maybe they've been asking for things that they haven't been getting, and they feel like they're not being listened to. That's a whole different conversation that you'd probably want to avoid. Getting out there.
Yeah. So to continue my story, did you know in the year 1973, 1 year before I was born, customers
in
cleared
my
store
day.
shelves of rolls for a month based on little more than rumors, fears, and a joke? That's how this has happened before.
What was the rumor and the joke? What was the catalyst that started people looking out for toilet paper?
Well, from this article that I'm reading from Business Insider, that at the time Americans were already worrying about the limited supplies of products like gasoline, because as we know, the gasoline crisis was going on, electricity, and onions, of all things. A government press release warned of a potential shortage in toilet paper, which led to a lot of press coverage, but no outright panic buying until Johnny Carson, which we know, if those who don't know, he was a famous late night guy, joked about this during his opening monologue. And then instead of laughing, people took this seriously and began to hoard toilet paper.
As I've said previously, when you're doing a comedy radio show or a television show and you make a comment that's supposed to be funny, it's kind of a wink and a nudge, half the show will get it. They'll be a part of the joke, and the other half will think it's a serious topic and, go the completely other way with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to kind of change directions here so we can have maybe some fun tonight and some levity in these times. And it's going to start off as a complaint, but I think it's insightful, and it's one thing that drives me nuts.
You know what really
seems
grinds
to be a
my
certain
gears?
segment of the population
What's that?
who use their speakerphone in public.
Oh, these fucking people.
What the F, man? Seriously. I mean,
You know what's worse than the guy who they're talking to, and I have a policy that probably might get me punched one day, and I would probably be deserving of it, and I've done this once or twice when I've been a little crazy. I feel that if you're having a conversation using speakerphone or video chat in a gas station, let's say, and you're got 3 or 4 people behind the line, that we're all welcome to jump into that conversation because you're making us all part of it.
absolutely.
So when you're
I'm with
talking
you on
about your
that.
boyfriend, or you're talking to the girl whose boyfriend cheated on him, or what, this, that, and that, we should be allowed to throw in our 2 cents, because why else would you make that conversation to where we can all hear it?
Or even escalate that conversation a little,
yeah.
pretend that you're the cheat, the side piece or something. You know?
Like peek over the shoulder. Jesus, I can understand why he did it. Look at him. What? I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, that's it's just God, and it just and they're not even quiet about it. It's
No.
full volume.
They're
It is yelling across the space.
No, you young cats won't get this. For people our age, a little bit older, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the rich people in the early 90s who could afford cell phones before the rest of us could have them. So they felt
Look at me.
Yeah, so they would intentionally have these conversations walking around there. Yes, and so I told him that I would see him in court and blah, 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 blah. And they would walk around like they're the cock of the walk because they had something that no one else had. Or the guy who would show up and your phone would ring at home. Hey, man, what's going on? Look out in your driveway, man. What? Look out in your driveway. You peek out in the driveway and he's sitting there on his phone with the big brick fucking car phone. I'm calling you from your driveway, man. Ain't that cool?
I seem to have a memory from when I went to Hamilton Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
There is a very dapper a black kid who dressed very nicely and carried a portable phone with him.
Not was it the
kind of
Zach
blew up in
Morris
his face
phone,
a
or
little
was it
bit
the one that
because
actually
it
had
was
the
like-
battery pack?
Oh, the battery pack. I mean, it was basically like a briefcase. Maybe it was a briefcase, but I thought there was a phone associated with it at one point in time. And it almost seems like one of them roles that somebody would write for a really crappy comedy movie, like an American Pie. Well, American Pie was a good one, but just a character there. And it was just one of those things that stuck out with me. Also had I'm just now thinking, kind of going off on a side here, in middle school when Top Gun was big. Yes, I am that old. There was a couple of friends who wore the Tom Cruise style bomber jackets, and yes, we did live next to an Air National Guard base.
But not
the haircut.
not the quality leather ones, but the Naga
no.
hide ones, the ones that was cheap.
I actually had one briefly.
The Naga hide ones, yeah, those are great.
Yeah. So,
I just had a flashback. So I knew somebody in California, and she was telling me that she went to school with the kid who played in Big with Tom Hanks. The kid who wore the jacket, Tom Hanks' character's best friend. And I think he shot that movie when he was maybe in 5th or 6th grade, possibly 7th. I can't remember how old. I think they're supposed to be like 13 in that, so they would have been in 7th grade.
Okay.
His acting career didn't really go off anywhere after that. And according to her, he was so trying to hang on to that popularity that he had from when he was in that movie amongst the kids at their school, that in high school he was still trying to squeeze into that, because I guess they let him keep the jacket from the movie that he wore. And so in high school, he's like trying to squeeze into the same jacket he wore in that movie, trying to hold. And at that point, it just got pathetic, because that's, when the movie's
Kinda
out
like
and
a
it's
desperate middle-aged woman trying to get back into her prom dress, right?
yeah, like when the movie's out and you're young, you're cool and you could talk about that. That might get you 2 or 3 years, but after a while, say, okay, yeah, shut up.
All
We
right,
don't
dude.
care. We've heard it.
Yep.
It's old hat. Oh,
It
that's
is
so
old
sad.
hat. So I started today watching a show that is all the rage right now.
You ain't talking about the show with the things and stuff, are you?
I am. And those kind of shows and those kind of people, one of the turnoffs is I think of the smell. When people have a lot of animals, that's the first thing I think of is the smell.
You ain't watched the whole series yet, have you?
I have not, but I was pretty not happy to see the guy rocking this shirt right here. the the Oh my God. it'll be interesting. Maybe they'll come out with a song about it. But
Well, I
yeah,
didn't know how much I could talk about, because I don't know how many episodes are you in.
I'm literally into maybe the first 20 minutes of the very first episode.
Oh, okay,
I was cleaning. I was like, you know what? I got to stop this. I got to get Katina involved.
I won't
think
give
we're
anything away, but
both
one
in-
thing I will tell, the takeaway that I had is apparently every down-home generic zookeeper has the overwhelming desire to make their own music video.
Oh God.
And
I think I did see something about that in the preview.
And I will say, sadly, the lyrics suck, but Joe Exotic actually had a decent country voice. You'll see some of his videos, and if he actually had a songwriter writing quality lyrics and a decent producer, he may have actually had an opportunity to do some minor league country singing, because he actually had a pretty decent voice once it was produced and processed.
Them hang out with Wheeler Walker Jr. I'm sure they'll come up with some gems.
I got the episode.
But,
I've seen every episode, but I got the episode 2, and I went on to Twitter and I said, "There's not a single person on this show that isn't fucking completely insane. They're all nuts. This is like the type of people that Import Export Steve would associate with.
He may be one of these people.
Every one of these cats, man. And the one guy, I think he even said on episode 1, he just said, "Big cat people are fucking insane," and they are. If you guys haven't watched this show, you got to watch it.
Do we know a big cat person?
Yeah. But, well, she's
I
a big
thought so.
she's a big house cat person. She's not
Yeah.
a big cat person.
But isn't her big house cat's technically a wild cat?
It's a Savannah. No, it's
What
a
about the
serval.
servals?
Yeah, it's a serval cat.
Yeah, those are African wildcats. I think that's legit.
Ooh, the plot thickens. Joining in from the Facebook live stream, Amanda Stamus says she heard that wasn't even his voice. He was doing some Milli Vanilli stuff. That'll be interesting.
That will. Now, one real quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Did they start, because this looks like this has taken over a period of 5 years. So were they actually really filming with things going on with him for this documentary as it progressed?
Well, without spoiling anything for you, I will just say that they were shooting a documentary. Well, the guy says at the beginning he wanted to know how the hell people can be driving around snow leopards in the back of their van. And so he started shooting a documentary, and this really ain't giving anything away, but the guy who's producing their web series show,
He's from Ohio, isn't he?
he used to actually work for a news station Bill O'Reilly worked for. They show some clips where he's doing stunts for Bill O'Reilly and all that back in the day before Bill O'Reilly was political. But he actually agreed to produce their online show so that he can get in there, because he was actually trying to put together a reality show and sell a reality show to Discovery Channel about Joe Exotic and what was going on. And so that's why there was so much footage in the early years.
So it's one of those where he thought it'd be one thing and it's turned out to be.
It's one of those right place,
a great thing.
right place,
You know?
right time, won the fucking lottery. And this I meant to go on the Big Cat Rescue Facebook page to see what their current membership is and to see how much if it all plummets from the bad publicity that they get. But there's no one in this fucking documentary that comes out look like a hero. I'll tell you that right now. Not a
Now,
one.
Any of these people mimic people that we have known throughout our lives?
Well, see, once again, I'm trying not to spoil it for you, but let me just say that anybody who works at these places, either one, they have a vice, or two, they are very codependent and looking for a cult, because they get more into some of the other places, and it's very cultish. Let me just say that. You just got to keep
like drinking the Kool-Aid cultish.
Well, without giving anything away, a lot of these cats who work at these zoos, they're living on premise and making $100 a week.
Oh boy.
So they're not getting rich. The people who own the zoos are getting rich, but the people who work there, they're basically living there.
Houseboys?
They're living there to have access. Well, not just at Joe's place, but at the other two places too. The chick in Tampa doesn't pay any of her people. They're all volunteers. So this chick is like, her overheads, very, with the exception of feeding the tigers and maintaining the zoo, she has no employee cost. All her people volunteer.
So no stipends, nothing like that.
Joe pays his guys like $100 a week, and they live in trailers and like eat out of the trash. And then the other cat, basically most of his employees are chicks, and he's got like a harem of women. So it's just, like I said, there's no winners on this thing. They're all fucking insane, and there's more characters that get introduced that you haven't even seen yet. This is a very close race to the Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. We're not quite there yet, but it's in the craziness department. It's fucking out there.
So you can almost have a crazy ass cracker off between these two.
Yeah.
Yes, white people, we're nuts. Apparently.
But no, dude, it's so funny because something happens that's just so fucking insane that you'll be dumbfounded. And then something in comparison minor happens, and they're like, once this happened, things completely changed. And it's like, dude, are you insane? You had a 10 happen and everything was cool. Then you had a 1.5 happen, and now you're upset. It's just the people on here are just so, they're like carnies, dude. It's the only thing I can say. They're so fucking crazy. Oh my God. It's just basically Joe would, he would find out that there was like somebody who's sleeping at the bus station, like who just came to town. His whole thing was to find, ramblers and homeless people basically, and say, I'll give you $100 a week and you can sleep in a trailer on my property. And so
the biggest derelicts out there.
Yeah, he would go out and find drug addicts and just, fucking ramblers and people who were just, had no place to go. Because who else would do that kind of... I mean, you haven't seen it yet, but I mean, they're getting cows delivered from the slaughterhouse, and they're like out there with hatchets and saws cutting them up by hand and feeding the tigers with them. Who the fuck's going to do that for $1 a week? I mean, $100 a week.
Well, when you get a chance, reach out to Import-Export Steve and find out if he knows anything about this guy. Who knows? He may know people associated, or he may have been.
I'll put a call into him, but I think he's locked down somewhere. But I'll see if I can get a hold of him.
Yeah, he may be locked down out of country at this point. So with everything that's going on, I'm still working. Have you started an apocalypse beard yet?
I got a pretty strong beard growing, but it's no longer than any of my normal beards. I just have it because I don't like to shave and I'm semi-lazy. But we here in Florida, we're only like a week into this thing as far as the mandatory lockup.
Uh-huh.
Did you notice like 3 days ago on Facebook, like the big thing was everybody like freaking out saying they need a haircut?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be there's gonna be some.
Who are these people with a strict 2-week haircut policy? I gotta get my haircut every 2 weeks. Really? I mean, you've been on lockdown. The stores have been closed for 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden you need to find an underground barber who doesn't give a shit. He's gonna come cut your hair. It's like that's the last thing on my fucking mind. I mean, my hair's a hot mess right now.
What about all these ladies who dye their hair?
No, hair dye's plentiful right now. I mean, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, but I think the quality is going to go down. I think things are going to look a little sketchy here. Everybody's going to look like a tweaker at some point in time.
What I'm more concerned with is how do we get the kids to understand that how do we control their boredom and stress eating? These kids are home all day long, and
how do you control your own boredom and stress eating?
well, I will say my diet has gone a little off the rails, but my off the rail diet is probably most people's normal diets. And what I mean by that is I've been eating some pretzels and potato chips lately, but I
How
still
about sodas? Staying away from soda still?
no, I've been drinking sodas, but I drink the small ones. But it's really not so much of a big deal because I burn so many goddamn calories a day that I'm able to maintain it. So like today, I went out and ran 3.5 miles before the show tonight, and I did that in 27 minutes. And so, I'm trying to see how many calories I burnt today. But I just burn so many calories anyhow that I can, if I would have stopped drinking the sodas and completely go full blown insane, super healthy diet guy, I would probably have like no body fat. But because I do burn calories and I'm not too concerned, my weight fluctuates like by 1 or 3 pounds up and down, back and forth. I maintain between 215 and 213. So it's like I'm not going to completely withhold myself from everything that's good. Now, if it gets to the point where I can't go out and run and exercise, then yes, I will control my diet more so that the calorie intake doesn't overbear me. But since I'm still able to run and burn so many calories, I'm not too concerned with it right now.
How's Nugget doing on the board kid at home front?
Well, and that's the thing. She went out and ran with me twice in the last 3 days, but she's kind of, she's boredom eating. She gets up, she eats, and in a few hours she eats, and then she eats again. And one, it's like, obviously for diet and health, we don't want you eating all the time. But two, we're locked down, and the things the stores have, they have plenty of, but there's a lot of things they don't have, and so it's like you need to kind of slow your roll on how much crap you're going to consume because we may go back next time and they may not have that particular item in stock until next week. I will say down here locally at Publix, we did have hamburger back on the shelf, so I was able to get some hamburger and chicken the other day.
Was able to get some chicken. Have yet to see hamburger out this way.
I got 2 pounds of hamburger. I did call Mom and got her advice on how to make what we are now affectionately referring to as Kentucky Fried Potatoes. So I got her recipe on fried potatoes, and I made some steak and potatoes last night, so that was delectable.
Good.
Well, because before we had hamburger and all the meats were sold out, they had premium cut steaks there. So I bought 2 of them just to throw in the back of the freezer in case things got real crazy where we couldn't find any protein at all. But now that we have hamburger on the shelves, we just pulled them out and enjoyed some steak and some potatoes last night.
It's getting bad. We got to break out the Wagyu.
Yeah.
Here's a paycheck's worth of meat right here in this 8 ounces.
Before we get into the news, we try to stay away from the politics, but I'm going to ask a favor of you guys who are watching. When the election season comes around, regardless what your party of affiliate is, when it comes time to vote for Senate seats and congressional seats, can we vote out the incumbents? All of them, both sides? The fact that this bill took so long to pass because each side was trying to cram unnecessary bullshit,
pork as it were,
into this thing. And by the way, there is some pork into this thing that got passed. There is some tremendous amount of insanity things going on. Like one of the things, like if you're a big corporation and you get any money, you have to agree to, you basically have to start reporting numbers on your, I don't know, they just got all this diversity stuff built into it and just all kinds of things that have nothing to do with what's going on. And there's just so much insanity that was put in this bill that regardless if they're Democrats, Republicans, or whatever you are, let's just vote all these fuckers out. Let's get a new batch of people in there, and hopefully the next batch will be a little bit better. And then the next time we'll vote somebody else in, and then they might be even a little bit more better. But let's just get rid of these fucking assholes because they clearly do not care about us or our families.
You know what I'd like to see? I would like to see, the people who add in the things, the pork and the insanity, they're listed in the bill. But I would actually like to see the speaker or somebody say, hey, who's the asshole who added this? Or at least call them out on their face. Why is this in here? This has nothing to do with what's going on now.
Well, they're not going to tell you the truth.
Just publicly shame them.
They're not going to tell you the truth.
I think that's what needs to happen. It's ridiculous.
They're not going to tell you the truth, but the truth is they got people they're beholden to who got them in office. Oh, yeah. The chickens are coming home to roost, and this is their time to pay off the bribes and the kickbacks and everything else.
Well, what's the old saying? Never let a good tragedy go to waste.
It's just insane. These guys are such assholes, especially
Yeah, they
Nancy
are.
Pelosi. We just gotta get rid of all of them. Get rid of all of them.
Absolutely, I am with you 100%. So,
We didn't talk about it like 2 weeks ago. My dog started having seizures really bad.
yeah, how is he doing?
Well, he's doing better.
Okay.
We got him on seizure pills, like $50 a bottle. But my 2 cats are older than him. And before the show tonight, Pitty had a seizure.
No.
She had one 2 days ago. And so right
What's she
now,
about? 12, 13?
yeah, she's about 12 or 13. Tucker's like 11 and Loki's a little bit like maybe 13, 14, or they're all within there, maybe 1 or 2 years off. But they're
Okay.
all older. Luckily, Loki's getting a little senile. He walks around. He's the Bengal cat. He walks around just screaming at the fucking top of his lungs all night long. Every once in a while, he loses his mind. But
He's always done that, though, hasn't he?
yeah, but he's getting weird. But he does this thing now in the morning where he insists on getting under the covers and then he'll attack you with his claws. It's so fucking annoying. And you put him on the floor and he climbs. He can't jump up on the bed anymore, so he climbs up with his claws because he's that old and he just attacks you. But no, sadly, Pitty had a seizure tonight, so now I'm going to have to try to take her to the vet, and I'll probably have to get her on some $50. So before too long, I'll be like $108 into anti-seizure pills a month for these 2 animals. And
So it's now become kind of an animals old folk home.
yeah, pretty much, with the exception of the birds who are all in their 20s. Pitty and Loki and Tucker are the oldest, and then little girl and Duchess. I don't know how they're younger, but yeah, it's going to be suck if we lose both of them around the same time.
Absolutely, but hopefully things iron out. I mean, you can manage the health of a pet and actually keep them pretty a pretty good quality of life, is what I'm trying to say, for a while. But
are you ready to do the news?
I am ready to do the news. So let's do this.
Joining us now from the Digital 410 West News Desk in Las Vegas, Nevada, Gordon Abernathy.
Gordon, how you doing tonight? I trust you. Scoured the internet, you scoured the TV, the newspapers, the wire, and even went out on Morse code to try to find something that doesn't have anything to do with the goddamn COVID-19. How was your quest?
So. But we're going to start off out here in Las Vegas. I want to introduce you to 24-year-old Jacob Berkovitz.
What's up, Jake?
And 27-year-old Tanya Dillard. So these two were up to some shenanigans.
You don't say.
Yeah, their shenanigans were apparently they decided to hop online and basically they robbed and killed an individual.
Not like a real piece of shit. Like if a piece of shit ate a piece of shit and took a pee and shit, you're that piece of shit.
It's about being surrounded by turds. So
he's an asshole, sir.
Yeah, they are assholes. So a man was robbed and killed by a couple after responding to a dating ad. Las Vegas police said homicide is under investigation where a body had been discovered inside a home near Lake Mead and Lamb Boulevard on Friday evening. Officers found a body inside a bathroom of the home located in the 2200 block of North Colebrook Street at about 5 p.m. Police said that they received a tip earlier in the day that a woman and her boyfriend had killed a person. I wonder who tipped them off.
How do you tell about that? Hey, man, what'd you do today?
Killed a motherfucker.
Do what now?
We killed a motherfucker.
How did you kill a motherfucker when we're supposed to be at home? You're on self-quarantine, remember?
People get a little randy at this self-quarantine.
Crazy. Did they say what dating app it was? Was it like Grindr or Tinder? Plenty of fish?
Nope. They don't say, which is kind of funny. I met my wife on a dating website. But needless to say.
I got that beat. Karen and I met on MySpace.
Oh, there you go.
I want to show my age.
MySpace. Anyway, the LVMPD homicide detective said that Dillard and Berkovitz had posted a dating ad to lure a person, and they had planned to rob and kill whoever answered. The investigation determined that the man did respond to the ad and picked up Dillard and Berkovitz on March 27th. That's how recent this is. He then brought them to his residence, and once inside the home, the man was robbed and killed. So to me, it sounds like this is definitely using whatever's going on out there, the great fiasco I don't know how related it is, but hopefully we don't see these stats going up, especially if people start getting desperate. But they have been charged for, they have been transported to the Clark County Detention Center.
Martin Mazika said they probably met on Farmers Only. They had the greatest commercials ever. I miss the Farmers Only commercials.
Yeah, they've kind of changed this last couple of years, and they don't. It says Farmers Only. The last one I saw said farmersonly.com, not only for farmers. And I'm like, but it's called farmersonly.com. Anyway, I digress. So basically, they were charged with a murder with a deadly weapon. Well, I mean, how else are you going to murder somebody unless it's with your fist? Conspiracy to commit murder, robbery with a deadly weapon, and a conspiracy to commit robbery. So anybody who does have further information on this incident is urged to contact the LV MPD homicide section at 702-828-3521. That's just in case there's people who are listening out this way who know about it. So
real quick, while we're on the topic of in case you know and this and that, if anybody listening to this podcast or watching this stream, if any of y'all know somebody who works over at the fine place, I think it's Activision, who made the new Call of Duty. They rolled out the free Warzone, which is great. Probably the best Call of Duty that's come out in a while. By the way, if you're playing Warzone, if you're not playing Blood Money, you're just wasting your time. That Battle Royale shit where you die and got to wait 30 minutes, that's for the birds. Play Blood Money. But as I'm sure some of y'all know, and this is very important stuff, and I apologize for interrupting the news, but this affects all of us in the time of crisis. They put out an update. And for whatever reason, after 13 years, the fine people at Call of Duty decided that they need to change the left bumper or the right bumper buttons. And no longer do you have your primary grenade on the right bumper and the secondary grenade on the left bumper. They took these, what they call the ping button. That's how you call people out, much like in the game Battlefield, which used to be a simple thing. You'd hold down the left trigger, you hit up on the D-pad, and you would call them out. Now they moved that to the right bumper, which means in order to use your grenades, you have to cycle through them using the left bumper and the D-pad, and it's just a clusterfuck for the fingers. You guys completely destroyed up the battle contents of the controller, and it's a complete nightmare. It's damn near unplayable. You need to fix it back. I apologize for interrupting your news with that, but you guys destroyed your game with a simple button change, and you need to knock that shit off and put it back. Back to you, Gordon. So one of the things didn't hear a whole lot of talk about, but it's starting to peak up now, is during this crisis, what about the homeless? So I will say our mass transit's still running. I'm seeing the Lee County buses going. They're almost empty, but people are still riding them.
Yes, they are. So we had a homeless guy at the Catholic Charities homeless shelter come up with COVID-19. And this promptly had them shut it down. So what the city is now doing is, at least in Las Vegas, they're setting up temporary homeless shelter at Cashman Center. Cashman Center is where our former AA baseball team used to play. Now they play up here towards Summerlin. But due to the closure of Catholic Charities, the city of Las Vegas, Clark County, and area homeless providers are setting up a temporary shelter for the homeless on the upper parking lot of the Cashman Center. The location will be tonight and will run through April 3rd. It is anticipated that Catholic Charities homeless shelter in the corridor of Hope will reopen in the meantime. So the past week, Southern Nevada Health District has announced that a homeless man tested positive for COVID-19, and as a result, the shelter run by Catholic Charities closed temporarily. So this put about 500 individuals out on the street without shelter.
Well, we knew that was going to happen, and
yeah,
and you know. Obviously, we didn't see this coming, but you and I were talking about, about 4 or 5 months ago, Dr. Drew was on podcast talking about how if LA doesn't get their homeless population under control, they're going to have typhoid fever and all kinds of plague running around. And they actually started having problems. And this was long before what we're going through now is happening. And so it's just...
What are you playing with there?
I'm playing with a 80-year-old gas mask. It's a non-combatant gas mask. See, back when we were concerned about the Germans and the Japanese dropping chemical warfare on our country, the United States government made these gas masks and issued them to the public. sadly,
They're probably full of asbestos. Right?
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Sadly, this filter, it looks like an oil filter, is made from asbestos, which is why I'm not putting it on. But I got it on eBay for $12. It fits great with my World War II collection. But I don't know, it's kind of crazy to think that you would have multiples of these sitting around your house in case the Germans or the Japanese dropped chemical warfare on your towns. It's just nuts.
So anyway, yeah, they're setting up some more shelters. The homeless, I've actually seen less homeless on the streets around here, obviously because there's less driving and less way to make money. But there's just one thing you didn't hear about, and it's interesting was when Governor Sisolak was locking down the state for the most part. He said,
Did you
just
say
applies to-
Sisolak, like Mo Sisolak from The Simpsons?
we like to call him Sleestack.
Gotcha.
One of the things he said is do not get in groups of greater than 10, no businesses, except for the homeless. It was actually a line in there.
Really? They actually put that in there? Is that like a hint? Yeah. Like let's let the homeless problem sort itself out?
I mean,
that's bad.
I mean,
politics.
he is a liberal, but it's I don't know. It's
of all
it's,
people
it
you don't want
interesting.
getting collected are the people who live in the street who don't have access to bathe, soap, and water.
Exactly, and that's what I think they need to set up is these maybe some shower facilities for them, some temporary shower facilities where they can get down there in the corridor of hope and at Cashman Center, just so these guys can get cleaned up.
Yeah, that I didn't even think
once
about
a day,
that.
come through here.
Get some of those solar showers like campers use. Set up some porta johns, and just let them come and
rip. And maybe donate some new clothes, dump these clothes, get some new ones. There's and I think there's still plenty of free clothing out there for people. The closed down casinos had donated a lot of food to Three Square and other organizations that help the downtrodden and those who are unfortunately out of work. So at least they're doing that much. And I got one more story, sadly. And it was in Vegas too. I really was having a hard time. This is a little positive out of the quarantine. Car enthusiasts participate in a quarantine cruise down the Vegas Strip today.
Nice.
Because, if the strip's pretty much empty except for everybody driving down the strip filming, saying, look how empty the strip is. What other way to do a nice car cruise than down the strip when there's no traffic or very little? So traffic was certainly lighter with the locals limiting their travel as part of social distancing measures. This is especially true on the Las Vegas Strip, but members of a local car club are trying to bring some life back to the area. No cars, no visitors. The eerie side of the Las Vegas Strip during the time of social distancing. It does look like a ghost town, by the way. I need to get down there. The normal bustling scene is devoid of life. However, that quickly changed this morning. A caravan of classic and antique cars cruised down the world-famous street, which was a breath of fresh air for the car enthusiast. So they're very grateful, said Michael Ficino, vice president of the Las Vegas Antique Automobile Club of America. He organized a quarantine cruise on the Strip after a member of his club suggested it. So they went ahead and started making phone calls. It took it from there, and now they had about 100 cars out there today. So they're proud of the collaboration with the city to meet the needs of the homeless population. And I'm sorry, that ran into another story, the previous. But anyway, it worked out well. They got probably some pretty good social media out of it and some filming. So, and this time, let's try to find the silver line in everything we can do.
Have you done any real lifestyle changes? Sorry, I'm losing my breath. Not only have we been talking for an hour straight, I actually did a podcast last night for the OG5 and the Patreon, but the digital gods are not on my side.
Of being consistently inconsistent.
That podcast will never be heard because there was a glitch in the software and it kept overlapping. So when you play it, you just hear 33 conversations with the same two people going on. Carrie and I did an hour-long episode of What's in Your Head last night. So over the last 2 days, I've talked for an hour straight or longer. And so now my voice is starting to go. But one of the changes I've made, one thing I have been doing is I went to the now. I know you're not supposed to go out and buy this stuff. You're supposed to leave it for the medical people, but the medical people aren't going down to AutoZone and buying non-latex rubber gloves because it's not really sanitary because they're non-latex. I got the Black Raven gloves because I work on people's keyboards and mice, and next to a cell phone, there's nothing dirtier and have more germs on it than a keyboard and a mouse.
Right.
And so I keep these gloves in my truck. I've been wearing them now. Not just I'll pull one out to save, like when I go into the store to touch the buttons on the keypads. Not only the gas pump, but like when I go inside to pay, I put it on. When I walked around Publix the other day, I actually had both gloves on, and I know it probably looks. I haven't done it, but I've seen fishermen do it around here. Those gaskets they put on their neck to save them from the sun that you can pull up over your face.
Yeah,
I've been seeing a lot of the fishermen wearing those in Publix because, from what I understand, I heard a doctor say it's the droplet moistures that carry this, and that's why they're saying stay 6 feet away. And I know Adam from Mythbusters has a video he put out where he's doing infrared. He's standing in front of a 6-foot measuring wall and he's breathing out fluids, and you see it only goes about 3 feet. So that extra 3 feet is a safety buffer. But they're saying you want to prevent the droplets of moisture from getting to any of your orifices. And so with that being said, it probably does provide some protection, even if you use your t-shirt or use those neck gaskets to pull up over your mouth and nose because when you're out the store, yes, you can keep social distance from people in the aisle. It's hard to do, but you can do it. But the credit card swiper is not 6 feet away from the cashier.
correct.
And that person has been standing within 2 feet of hundreds of people that day.
Yep.
And so that's the person you really want to kind of not breathe too much around.
And for every one person, she's probably contaminated by 10, right?
Yeah.
We've had some gloves for a while that we've kept around the house, and I did start using them when I go pump gas. And at the store today, I had them on. I had it changed. I think I changed out twice, but just trying to use a little extra care right now.
This episode of the Waterman and D-Train Show is brought to you by our friends at Act Computers. Act Computers have been providing IT solutions for all of Southwest Florida since 2004. Right now, it's been more important than ever with everybody working at home. You're opening up your computer networks to potential security risk. If you're using remote desktop, you really need to get set up with two-form authentication. Act Computers can help you out with that. Super low monthly cost on that. And more importantly, this encryption ransomware shit is all over the place. And people's data is getting encrypted. And if you're backing up your data using a local hard drive that's plugged into a USB port or a NAS server on your local network, that worm will potentially, not only, I know for a fact, because I've seen it happen, encrypt all the data on your backup on any USB drive and or USB docking station with a hard drive. Anything connected directly to that computer will get encrypted, but it will populate through your network. Anybody sharing files off of that source will get encrypted. So make sure you are backing up your data online. And right now, give Act Computers a call at 239-283-1120. Say the word podcast, and they will hook you up with online backup for 7 cents a gig per month. So give them a call, 239-283-1120. And if you're having regular computer problems, and even if you don't live in Southwest Florida, give them a call. As long as your internet works and your computer works well enough that the mouse might move a little bit when we're trying to work on it, give us a call and we can log in your computer remotely and fix you that way. Give us a call at 239-283-1120 or go to act-capecoral.com.
So one of the things that before we were out of here, you asked if I changed in my daily life is I unfortunately have a CPAP machine, but I had bought what's called a Lumen. It's a UV sterilizer, and these things are not a gimmick. I work in electrical, do a lot of hospitals, and a lot of them are start going to these lights that flip the UV that sterilize rooms. And I instead of just doing my CPAP machine, I now run my cell phone in it every day, my keys, my everything I got that's going to touch my face. And I'm noticing, D-Train, you're not wearing contacts, are you?
Oh, yeah. I'm putting my dirty ass fingers in my eyes.
They're telling you no now because it's your orifice, buddy.
Yeah. Actually, I wore glasses all day. I put in the contacts when I went out for a run because it's hard to run in glasses.
Yes, it is.
Martin Razika had a good tip. He said, wash your car keys. And now when he goes out in public, he only takes his ID and one debit card, leaves the rest of it at home, leaves his wallet at home. When he gets home, he washes said debit card and ID every time. And I have heard people say that you should kind of do what doctors and nurses do as a regular habit on a normal day, which is they don't wear their shoes inside. So you can take that for what it's worth as well. You can leave your shoes in the garage or on your front porch and do the full-blown Mr. Rogers.
Yep, I'm with you on that. But that's it for the news. I think that is all I have for the evening.
Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for a long-ass time. A lot of viewers hanging in and came back after the first debacle. And you hear us talking a lot about the OG5. right now is really not the time to ask you to do this sort of thing, but it's there. Go to d-410.com if once this thing's all over and you want to help contribute to the show for $1 a month, you can do that, but we won't hit you over the head right now. For the members of Patreon already, like I said, we did record an hour-long episode last night of the What's in Your Head podcast, which will not be heard because the recording got screwed up. So Carrie and I, and possibly Gordon, depending on his availability, we're going to get together tomorrow night. We will record another one, and hopefully by Monday up on Patreon, there will be another episode of the What's in Your Head podcast. But thank you guys so much. Stay healthy, stay safe. Gordon, where can people find you?
I can be found at Aegis1974 on Instagram, Gordon at Gordon-D410 on Facebook, and that's about it.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for another episode. We love you all, and we hope you and your family stay safe. And remember, normal times, I would tell you, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you'll never get out of bed. But right now, stay in bed, get super comfortable, and let's bust out the Netflix queue. Your homework assignment is to see how many movies you can get out of your Netflix queue officially. You can't get in there and delete them. You got to watch them. For some reason, over the last year or so, you put those items in there. So clearly you wanted to watch those shows. If you're working from home, chances are you're working from home. You're not putting a full 8 hours. You're doing like 4 hours. You're pretending, then you're hanging a boot. So let's go ahead and clear out those Netflix queues. Let's watch as many shows as we can. We'll get together next week and we'll talk about good shows to watch. Netflix, if you're watching, Gordon, I'm going to bring you back up. Maybe you've noticed this. Netflix has a serious problem with their subtitles. Have you noticed this?
Yes, I have.
This just started. I've been watching a show for 3 seasons called Babylon Berlin. Now, you can put in English overdubs, which I don't do. I watch it in German and subtitles, and it's usually not a problem. But with Tiger King, those rednecks, they put some subtitles on there. I've gone back. I'm on episode 3 of Better Call Saul and all the Spanish speaking. The subtitles either don't show up at all, or they show up for 2.5 seconds, or they're running late. Netflix has got to get their subtitle engine fixed. It is completely effed. I've tried to watch season 3 of Babylon Berlin, and when it's all in German and the subtitles don't show up, or only half the time, it'd be like if you and I were speaking German, the subtitles when I talk would show up, but not you. And so you're only getting half the conversation. So Netflix's subtitles are completely jacked.
Oh, yeah. So watch some stand-up right now. I think that would add a little levity to the whole situation. Enjoy, don't watch all these outbreak movies. And
No.
I notice a lot of pandemic stuff on there. Stay away from that. Just watch something funny.
Watch something
laugh a
funny
little.
or some historical stuff, but anything that's not happening now. But thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you again here soon.
This has been